Welcome to
the Reddit
Roundup.
People who have said no to the barber when they asked if their haircut looked good. What's your story? I had a really uneven trim with a couple of bald patches in it once, so I just asked the barber to shave my head completely and I'd start over from zero. He tried to charge me for both haircuts, but I refused to double dip. I asked for a skin fade that tapers into what I have on top. She went down to skin a little the way up. Told her this isn't what I asked for. She got snarky and said I needed to be clearer next time. I paid the bill after she shortened the top to better match the now bald sides of my head. I may not know all the names for barber equipment, but I've been getting this haircut for years and literally everyone but her was able to produce what I requested. Had a barber offer a hot towel shave at the end of my haircut because he was trying to kill a few extra minutes before he clocked out without having to take another waiting customer. Barber used a Mach 3 razor and absolutely butchered my face. Halfway through the shave, people just kept staring at me with blood running down my face while the barber was packing some cornstarch bullshit in the scrapes/cuts. He said, "Wow, you have really sensitive skin," and I replied, "Most skin is sensitive when you fucking remove it with a razor." I just pulled the towel off and walked out of the shop, bloody, half-shaved and fully pissed off. My brother thought I got jumped on my way, there was so much blood on my shirt/neck. Best part is, I only got the haircut for professional headshots being taken the next day. Yeah, that didn't happen. Shitty part is, guy was my go-to barber for a few years. Haven't been back since. I chose a new style that, as it turns out, I didn't like how it looked on me upon completion. No fault of his, I just didn't like what I chose. Didn't really fit me like I thought it would. I had him shave it bald and had him try something else several months later. Much better. I'll still have him experiment from time to time, even be his guinea pig for something he wants to try. I wanted a buzz cut. She was not willing to cut off that much hair, assuming I'd be upset and get angry. 7 times she trimmed off a millimeter and asked me if it was okay. I went out, bought myself a pair of clippers, had a buzzed head in about 12 minutes, and have not been back to a barber since. She shaved my sideburns up to about 1.5 inches above my ear. I didn't say anything, just sat there looking pissed. She goes, "It'll look good if you put some gel in it." I went up front to pay, thought about not paying, paid anyway. 4 people got up and left behind me who were waiting. Never again master cuts. Never again. I had to wear a beanie for a month during a hot summer in GA until they grew back. A baseball cap wouldn't cut it. My boss was against me wearing a beanie at work initially until I took it off. When I was about 6, we had a mobile hairdresser who came to our house. I was a real tomboy, so Mum asked them to cut my hair fairly short. When I saw her in the mirror, I ran outside, climbed a tree and refused to come down for a couple of hours. I think my views were clearly transmitted. Not me, but my dad. Went to get a haircut before a soccer game back when I was about 12. Got mine first, was fine. Sat down while Dad got his haircut. Cue the barber doing the usual, holding the mirror asking if everything looks good. My dad sits still for a minute quietly and says sternly, "That's the worst fucking haircut I've ever had in my fucking life." Everyone just sat there for what seemed like 10 minutes before we just got up and walked out. Nothing else was said. I was beyond fucking embarrassed, and the haircut seemed like the same fucking haircut my dad had gotten since 1980, no better or worse. Still not sure if he just did it to avoid paying, which would be very likely, but he maintains to this day it was a fucking terrible haircut. When I was a kid, my dad and I would go to the local barber. However, once I became a preteen, when you become self-conscious about your hair, my dad and I both noticed our haircuts were getting shittier and shittier. The next time we went, I watched the barber focused on what the barber was doing while cutting hair to see if I could identify what he was doing wrong. It turns out he had become so complacent that he would fixate on the Cubs game on the TV hanging from the ceiling while cutting hair, not even looking at the person's head. I told him it sucked and never went back. Never complained about a haircut. But once when I was halfway through and the woman who was just before me that had the same lady came back and started complaining about how my current hair lady did a terrible job and she wanted her money back. My hair lady and complaining lady get into a heated argument about how complaining lady was talking on her phone the whole time and this caused the bad cut. Thought they were about to take it outside. Really a terrible situation to be in. Half-cut hair, an emotionally charged haircut lady, and not the best feeling about haircut lady. Quite awkward. Thank you Supercuts. I'm someone who hates bangs. They don't look nice on me and they annoyingly tickle my forehead. Every time I meet my barber she keeps insisting on giving me bangs and I always say no and it clearly pisses her off until one time she accidentally cut a chunk of my front hair and would have to give me bangs to make it look good now. I knew she did it in purpose cause she was playing with my front hair for a bit before suddenly making the cut. That was the last time I went to her. Thankfully my current barber agrees with me that bangs aren't my style. Edit. Holy shit this blew up. If people must know I didn't tip her and didn't have to pay the extra time it took to cut the bangs but it did take me a whole year to finally grow it out and get the style I wanted. When I was a kid, my mom would always take me to the same place to get my hair cut, and I would always end up crying because that lady clearly had no idea what she was doing. I didn't even hold it in until I left the place. I would just tell her that I hated the look and start crying. My mom kept taking me there thinking I was just a stupid kid that would never be happy with their haircut. She was wrong. Now that I've changed several hairdressers, I've been going to the same one for a few years and I really adore her. I had an important job interview, truly critical. I'd moved to Los Angeles based on the offer of a lucrative job at my cousin's sound studio, only to have him tell me when I got out here that he had no intention of paying me. So I was broke, and desperate, and only had a part-time gig that wasn't adequate to pay the bills. Get an interview at a super cool startup. Big money, great job, great company. But I looked kinda shaggy and unkempt. It had been a few months since I got a cut. I was broke, so all I could afford was super cuts. I told the woman I wanted the same cut I've had for ages, short, a number 2 on the sides, faded up with some length at the top so my cowlicks don't go crazy. She gets to work, and takes a huge divot out of the back of my head with no guard on the trimmer at all. The only way to fix it was to shave off the rest, and since it went from the middle of my head to the top, it was impossible to fade in, too. So I just had a white wall on the sides, leading a sort of half-assed high and tight. It looked god-awful. She knew it. I told her how important it was I look my best the next day, what was at stake, and that this was seriously going to detract from my professional appearance. She apologized and offered me a free cut to make up for it. Like I'd come back for another cut after this disaster. There was nothing to do but gut it out. I got the job anyway, in a major turning point in my life. Months later co-workers asked what was up with my crazy punker haircut when I interviewed. Told the story and laughed. My hairdresser and I had a pretty good relationship, and I had short hair that I wasn't emotional about, so she asked if she could just go wild and surprise me. When I saw the result, I'd ended up with a weird uneven pixie cut. I told her that it was very cool, but would be too difficult to maintain every day, so could she please cut it down to a regular hairstyle. She redid the cut uncomplainingly, and I walked out happy. It wasn't a haircut but a blowout. A simple blowout. I was on an anniversary vacation and I wanted to treat myself to a blowout. It was $25. We were staying in a nice inn and I called the recommended salon and booked an appointment. This is a very small town in a place far, far away. The brand new girl was doing it and she had no idea how to do a blowout. I have had them before and she was clueless. I debated what to say and when she turned me around she asked me if I liked it and said no. She called the manager over, might have been owner, and the owner started to argue with me that stylists have their own style to do blowouts. The manager did my blowout in 1/3 of the time and she did it right. The new girl checked me out and I told her that it was the manager's duty to train her and the manager was at fault. I asked her not to feel bad but to demand to be trained so that she could become as great as she wanted to be. I paid the bill of $25 and tipped the new girl $15. That poor new girl was not equipped and was not being supported. I hope she continued and asked for her training. When I was a young teen, 15 or 16, I had hair down to my belly button. I wanted it cut to my collarbone because my hair is thick and hard to take care of. My normal hairdresser was delayed into our appointment due to one of the dyeing hair things breaking and the other being taken, so I was paired with a different one. This girl couldn't do an even cut. She kept trying. So she kept cutting so one side would be 3+ inches longer than the other. I watched in the mirror in horror, speechless. She eventually sees my face and goes to get my normal hairdresser. My normal hairdresser just gives me a sad look and says she has to even me out and that she was sorry. She had to cut it to my ears. She didn't ask if I like it. She just said I didn't have to pay. My eyes were watering by that point. It was horrible. Never went back. Got stabbed in the scalp with the scissors. It got stuck there and I had to go to hospital to have it surgically removed. Didn't hit anything, thank the gods. That's it for this time. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.